We're joined by Peter McGuire, CEO of XM Australia. Peter, does this come in line with market expectation? Is the market surprised? And what kind of an impetus or a stimuli will this provide to the commodities market?
Well, good afternoon, Reema. I think a couple of things. It's the first reduction for this year, and you had two last year. So I think we were all expecting it. You've seen a big washout, continual washout and softness as far as the CSI 300, and it will no doubt put growth into the Chinese economy, which in turn should see higher growth as far as base metals and the commodity complex itself. So I think it's going to be a good thing if you're a miner or if you're providing metals. And from a consumption standpoint, it's probably not a bad thing either for internal demand in China.
Peter, good afternoon. Good to see you in. Peter, if in case this rate cut does come about and the Chinese are looking to pep up their economy, which is the metal that is best placed according to you?
Well, I mean, that's a difficult one, Nigel, in so many ways to look at, but you'd have to look at copper. You've got to look at the barometer itself in the sense, and that's always been the barometer across base metals. Also, one must look at iron ore. There's no doubting that also. But I think the copper market, to see that rally again back up to, that best part of 8,500 to 9,000 would give it a level of confidence and would take up a rising tide lifts all ships. So you'd see all the others go up in tandem. So that's how we're looking at it. But we've just got to see the impact it has if it is successful, or do you need further momentum for the Chinese central banks?
Peter, I don't know if you look at stocks and if you have a view there, but the fact is that the Hang Seng before this week's 5% rally was down 13% this year. And of course, I mean, that's just 2024, completely bombed out space, right? Although to be fair, the last time investors said, well, it's time to buy China tech because it's so bombed out, stocks fell more. But I'm not sure whether we're reaching a point where, one can get exposure through mutual funds or, there are these Greater China funds, etc. Any thoughts at all, Peter?
Yeah, absolutely, Prashant. I think a couple of things. First off, you've got to be conscious. It hit 5,800, the CSI 300, in around about August of 2020. So you've had that big push down now. You're nearly you're 45% down. And as you mentioned, as far as Hong Kong. So yeah, you've got to be sector specific. There are some sectors that are performing a lot better than the ones that are crashing. And that's where you've got to do your homework from a retail, or the institutions are fine, but from a retail trader and that perspective. So be conscious as far as opportunity and really lock in your downside and use derivatives to hedge as far as, risk metrics. And you've got to take a very concerted view because these are certainly unusual times.
All right, Peter, final question from my end. Do you track coal, thermal as well as coking coal, and how is the trajectory out there? Because demand appears to be fairly okay, and there are some supply constraints as well that are creeping in. Absolutely,
and they're the great challenges, Nigel. I mean, when you're looking at supply constraints across that whole coal complex. Look, you've just got to be conscious. What's happening? Where does it come from? Is there shipping issues with it? Are there issues as far as mining? Have you got strikes in mines? And what's happening from the supply side and production? And then you're looking into the demand side. Is it weaker than usual? Is it stronger than usual? What's going on as far as weather outages? What's going on with electricity demand? All of these factors need to be taken into consideration as far as energy consumption. And that's where coal plays a huge component as far as certainly for India, and very much for the world.
We got that, Peter. We'll leave it there. Quick conversation today, but straight off the bat, the commodity you named is copper, right? So we'll keep an eye out on that one, and of course some of the others that you mentioned. Maybe look at Hindustan Copper, which is of course the only pure play copper sort of miner here. It's a 5% gain